I think I wanted to start and zoom out a bit and get your thoughts on what you believe is happening with the globalists. I think you recently said, quote, the goal of the globalists is painfully obvious. It is the denationalization of the United States, the fundamental destruction of national identity, and the social cohesion that supports it, unquote. Colonel, what did you mean by that?
I think you're dealing with people today who are extraordinarily wealthy, that command enormous financial resources. They dominate the media, Hollywood, obviously. And I think they're interested in changing the fundamental character of the Western civilization. When I talk about denationalization, what we're dealing with are people that want to do effectively what Karl Marx mentions at the end of his famous treatise, where he said, "We're winning a new world, eine neue Welt wird gewonnen." In other words, we're going to change it. We're going to unburden ourselves of the past. We're going to revise history, and with this, we will destroy or eliminate all national borders, any distinctions. All people will be fungible commodities who can be moved around at will and committed to whatever we want to do. It's strange, in my judgment, that in the year 2024, this kind of mentality that we thought had been fundamentally extinguished in the early 90s in the Soviet Union should come back with such ferocity. But I think it has, and that's what we're dealing with. And Americans are very confused because they look at the national institutions and they see them as completely unresponsive to them, no longer reflecting who and what they are. And of course, when you open your borders and you bring in millions and millions of people who are fundamentally different from the people that live in the country, and frankly, there is no expectation that they will ever become Americans. There doesn't seem to be any interest in that. Then you run the risk of having no country at all. You have this amorphous mass of people struggling to survive. And of course, all of this against the backdrop of an economy that is declining in terms of strength and power, standards of living that are falling, and wars overseas that seem to be unending and largely disconnected from the interests of the American people. That's as quick a synopsis as I can provide.
Tucker is doing a tour across America, and I've been watching his broadcasts. They're very fascinating, and he goes, to states like California where he grew up, and he's getting these massive audiences from places where you think people might not be interested in his point of view. But he just did a conversation with J.D. Vance, the VP candidate for Donald Trump, and they were commenting on how the elected that go to Washington seemed to then pursue their own agendas and seem to forget that they're representing the people in their jurisdictions, and they seem to make decisions that are not in their interests. And that could mean immigration decisions to spend billions and billions of dollars in these wars overseas that no one wants to be involved in. Are these some of the things that you're speaking of?
Well, that's some of it. And clearly what you've just stated is indisputably true. I think there's something else, though, going on, and that is that we're in a fight for the soul of the nation. We're asking the question that Sam Huntington did in his last book, Who Are We? We're asking that question, who are we indeed? And, when I speak to audiences, I point out that we must, if we're going to survive this, we must be Americans. What is an American? Well, we have the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. We are part of Western civilization. We speak English. We have to be one people. We cannot be tribalized, fragmented, because to move down that path spells doom and disaster for the United States. I think these messages are finding resonance now. They are resonating strongly with lots of people. So we've been through this long period that's lasted, I would say, decades. It's just become much more intense within the last 15 to 20 years, where we have been divided against each other. And I think there's a real longing in the United States to be united. And people are looking for this unification of purpose that has been missing. And it certainly is not conquering the world. I mean, that falls on deaf ears. The old adage that we have to be everywhere all the time to prevent anything from changing, which is really what the globalists have been preaching, the neocons, all of them. That doesn't find any support anymore. People are saying, wait a minute, the world has been around for thousands of years, long before we arrived. What about us? Where do we fit in? What about our prosperity? What about our security? And you have the same problem in the court system, the judicial system. These things all seem to have broken down. You have policemen that are leaving the police establishments because they don't want to be prosecuted and sent to jail for effectively doing their jobs. We can't find enough men to man the armed forces. Well, why should that surprise anybody? How many times do you have to go to places like Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or somewhere else and discover that this is an enormous waste of time? We can't change these people, nor should we try. They have their own way of life, their own culture. We need to get out of here. We need to go home. And why aren't we defending our literal waters? Why aren't we defending our citizens against criminality? Why are we allowing 100,000 plus Americans to be killed every year by fentanyl poisoning? Why are we not stopping the human trafficking? It's all of these things are now, what's the right word, coalescing or coagulating into a mass of discontent inside the United States. And they look at the government and they realize, well, frankly, everybody comes to Washington and everybody is a normal human being in most cases, but they all leave as multimillionaires. Well, what's happened? This process of self-enrichment is well underway. And people are not voting in accordance with whatever they think is in the interest of the country, even if they know that, or even in the interest of their constituents in most cases. They're voting along the lines that their quote unquote donors want them to. So we have Washington that years ago people said Washington was corporate occupied, which was true to some extent. But today people talk in terms of donor occupation. Because the donors, the oligarchs with billions of dollars at their disposal, can effectively buy whatever policy they want. And that's what they've been doing. So everything is disconnected from what I would say constitutes the American people. And the American people are bewildered. They don't know what to do. And most people are not interested in civil war. This is all nonsense. People say, well, we're going to have a civil war. Nobody wants to do that. I haven't seen any evidence for that at all. What they would like to see is that the rule of law is reestablished. They'd like to see laws enforced. They'd like to see criminals punished, like to see the border secured. They'd like to see free and fair elections in most cases. All of these things are very simple, straightforward requests, but they're not getting much support out of Washington for any of it.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.